Can you guys hear me? You should be able to hear me now. And if you guys are watching, just post a comment in Hip Chat or on YouTube telling me if this is working. I've been fiddling around with the live streaming pretty much all day and all week, actually. So what I'm looking for is any kind of questions you guys have. I have Xcode open here where I can demo some things. So I'm going to try and juggle a couple screens here so I can see what you guys are saying. Hold on. All right, so I'm looking through the questions that I have here, and I'm going to go in the order that you guys have sent them in. So if you have any other questions, just keep posting them. Tran was one of the first questions we had today, and he's looking to make a reader of news, and he was looking into the table view, but he wants to display 2 columns when he's in landscape view. So when you rotate the iPhone. So if I take my iPhone, and I don't know of any apps that do this right now, but he wants to have, let's see if this will focus. He wants to be able to rotate it like this and then have 2 columns in that list. And so that is possible with a table view, a UI table view. You probably wouldn't want to do it that way. You'd want to use the UI collection view, and then you'd have to add some extra logic when you actually rotate the phone to switch displays. Now, I'm not going to jump into how to do that because that's a little bit complex, but that's the gist of where you would want to start looking to get that done. All right, I'm just going through to the next questions. All right, so Jordan wants to know if there's a recommended setup when starting a new app other than linking libraries. And he's followed tutorials where he's been importing different code libraries or different code files in the precompiled header. That's the .pch file, and I can show you, I guess, what that looks like right now. So what you're looking at is a coffee app that I'm working on. And actually, I think I want to bring up my other app. So let's bring that over onto the screen. So you should see my screen now. And so I'm working on this coffee app. I haven't launched anything yet. It's still experimental, trying to gather data. And here's a nicer looking one if I can bring this over. So unfortunately, I can't get it to show the menu bar, so I'll try and explain what I'm doing if I use anything in the menu bars or going through stuff. So I made this quick little app. There's a coffee shop in Rochester called Joe Bean Coffee Roasters. I get all of my coffee beans there. I think I have a bag. So this is a bag of fresh beans. It was roasted on the 31st. And so it's really fresh. And I'm looking at making this app to do stuff. So I guess what I'm getting at is, we'll see the app in a second once it loads. But if you look in the project, and let me highlight the mouse now. So there's this PCH file. If you look at a Xcode project, and I don't know if I can zoom in, so I haven't tested this part yet. So this is the app. Let me get it so that it looks more like an iPhone. I have to fiddle with it on my Retina screen and then bring it back. So here's the app. It looks more like an iPhone now. And I've got this table view. It's got some custom content that I added. So I've got titles, I've got text descriptions, I've got some buttons that I added just for fun. You can hit the watch button and it will start up a video. This is me brewing coffee. And then when you're done, you just hit the done button. And then the other thing that you can do here is you can share something. So if I want to share this image here, I could hit the share button. It's going to bring up the UI share sheet. And right now I'm on the simulator, so I don't have all the options for doing it to Facebook or Twitter, but those would appear here. And so I could do an email, and we should see the image and a little link that I included in that. So that's just a little test app. But what we're getting at here with Jordan's question is, in the PCH file, this is our precompiled header file. Here we include anything that we don't want to include every time. And so one of those things is UIKit, and the other thing is Foundation. So that's going to give you support. In UIKit, that's going to give you support for all the iOS stuff. That's going to be all the iPhone app programming stuff. And Foundation is actually all the Objective-C code. So that's going to give you everything you need for that. So these are two frameworks that you're including, and it's basically a lot of code that Apple has written for you. Now, you can put in custom libraries here. So in this app, if I scroll down here, now you can't see this, so let's see if I can. I'll switch to the other view because that's covered underneath my thumbnail. So in this view, in the build phases of my target, which is here, if you don't see this, there's this little thing that will pop it out, or you'll have a drop down along the top. Here we can see what libraries we're linking to. And so this is related to Jordan's question. We normally have these three libraries in any given app. And then anytime you want to add like advertising or media playback, you need to add additional libraries, which is basically just additional code that someone else has written so that you can leverage it. So I use additional libraries for test flight. I use them for Flurry Analytics, so I can have analytics data. And you can add those frameworks here. So you hit the plus. So I hit the plus here, and then I can pick any one of these and just add it. So that's how this works. Once you add it, then you can include the stuff. So in my, I believe it's my video table view cell, at the very top, you'll see, no, that's the wrong one. It's just the video, it's the view controller. You can see that I do an import statement here. Now, the reason you generally would do an import statement in one code file is because, so right now I'm in the viewcontroller.m. So generally you want to do your import statements in the .m file, just because that makes it so that your app builds faster, which means that you're not going to sit here waiting for Xcode to finish so that your app can start up. So once your app starts up, that time delay is related to how you write some of your import statements. So you generally always want to try and write import statements in the .m file of a particular file. Now, if you had something that you want to use everywhere, and I guess the places that I do the PCH file, which is your this prefix header file, it's going to do all of the header files here. And here we have a special thing for Objective-C. So you can put like Flurry Analytics or any kind of thing that you might need to use here. And that's when I would do something like that. Generally, I don't put stuff here right away unless it's used across all of the code files. So if multiple code files are going to use the same thing, then I'll add it into this file. So I think that answers the question, Jordan. If you have any other questions about that, just post another question. All right, so Evan wants to know if we can incorporate a thumbprint login passcode on launch before entering the app. I do not believe that you can use the thumbprint scanner in your apps, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is restricted to just the device unlocking. If you want to have a custom passcode lock, you'd have to build your own app screen. So you would have to do an app screen like I've done with the coffee app, and when you click on something, you would have to enter in the data. So you could imagine, I guess in this app, when you bring up the keyboard for something, if it was a 4-digit number, you would type the number, and then if that is the correct number, when you press return, it'll unlock the app. But you cannot, as far as I'm aware, use the fingerprint scanner in app. The thing I would do here is I would Google fingerprint scanner and then iOS. iOS is a better search term than iPhone because that's the development thing. And then you're going to look for an API. And so this is how I would start a search if I had a question about if I could do something. And on Stack Overflow, we can get a lot of answers. So here we can see what other people say. And I'm pretty sure that it's like locked down. Okay, so here it says Phil Schiller, the Senior Vice President of Marketing, confirmed that developers won't get access to it for authentication. So that might change with iOS 8 or whatever is coming in the future. But at the moment, right now, that is not possible. So the thing that you would have to do is you'd have to build a UI to display that type of information. And if you guys are getting more questions as we go, just post them here in the HIP chat, or you can do it on YouTube. On YouTube, if you're not in the HIP chat channel, you can join that if you look at the description link down here. So let me show you the video. You just scroll down on the video. There is a link down here for the chat channel, and that is under the About thing. So make sure you're on the About. It can be a little confusing. Google's really good at hiding where all the tabs are. They make it like hidden so that you can't tell that the tabs are here. Generally, you'd want tabs, I think, on the left side, but they have the like buttons here instead. So you can press the like button if you like this. And we'll keep going. So, next question. All right, so Colton asked a question about pixelating an image. Yes, you can pixelate an image. This would probably... You're going to have to work with Core Image. So if I were searching for something about this, I would search Core Image, Pixelate, and I don't know if there's an existing filter, or if someone else has written a filter, or there could be some open source code. So so you have two issues here. You have the issue of wanting to pixelate the image. The other issue you have here is after you pixelate it, when you display it in an image view, the image view will try and blend the color, so it won't show them up as pixelated. So I would search here for a UI image view, and I'm going to keep a text log of all the links that I'm providing here. So let me just open up another window so I can write down where we've gone so that I can jump back to things in the description for this chat. So I would look for a UI image view, pixelate image, and I want to display it because I know there's a setting, and I've done this before. This might help us out. So this is how I always do iPhone apps. I'm always searching on Safari and Google and stuff like that to just figure out how to do stuff. So one thing you're going to do here is probably to resize the image. And the other thing I want to look at is the UI image view reference, because sometimes there's settings in the reference. So this is a good habit to get into. Anytime you want to do stuff with code, you're going to want to look up the reference so that you can see what Apple is writing about how to use these different things. So if I were to click on this, this is going to give me some tutorials where other people are using this code. And if we scroll down, it might be the pre-scaling or some kind of scaling that it does. So there's a ton of options that you need to go through here, and it might not be at this level because a lot of these classes subclass other classes, so you sometimes have to dig up the hierarchy, or we have to look into the core graphics programming guide. And I don't remember doing all this stuff off the top of my head. I do have code on GitHub So let's just grab these links so I don't forget them. I do have code on GitHub for working with the raw bit data for the colors because you don't have direct access to that. So if I go to my GitHub page, UI image conversion is some code I wrote. I use this in my app Artwork Evolution for creating genetic art. I guess it's computer art. This allows you to convert to the different data so that you can work with it. And if you just go to GitHub and search Pulsal, you'll find UI image conversion. And I'll just keep track of that link here. I guess I can post it into the HIP chat to make that easier. That's going to change my scroll position. Okay, so there's an issue where I have seen a UI image view change a pixelated image so it's not pixelated. And let's see. Do I have a bunch of other questions right now? Are you guys still having issues with sound? Okay, if we don't have a ton of other questions, I can try and see how far we can get with the displaying the image. So we'll come back to that if there's time. And to answer, I guess, your question more specifically, Colton, the frameworks that you'll use will do the GPU work for you, but you don't actually have to do any like low-level stuff. You can just work with core image, or you can work with the data, but you don't have to push stuff to the GPU and then deal with grabbing the memory there. All right, so it looks like Evan has a question. What is the best way to get started with SDKs? He's mainly interested in integrating Facebook, Twitter, logins, pulling images from Instagram, etc. All right, so if you want to work with like web service SDKs or APIs, the best place is to look at their documentation. And there's a couple different things I guess I would point you to. The first one would be parse. And if we go to parse, here we can see this is a tool that allows you to have like a server backend for your app. And I've used this a little bit. I haven't published any apps with it, but it is free to use for when you're just getting started. They do have a pricing model. And you're going to want to look at this, the core. So you can save data in the cloud. You can make your app social so you can connect via Facebook logins, Twitter logins without writing a ton of code. So this is the easiest way to get started. And you can run stuff in the cloud to do some logic in the background. So you could use this for a game. You could use this for an app that you want to save data for users and stuff like that. So this is a good option. Otherwise, if you want to just work with Facebook and you don't want to go through sort of a third-party service, you would go to Facebook and then, I guess I went to the wrong area. Should be able to get to it from here. So I have apps associated with Facebook. So you just want to go to developers.facebook.com. So let's see, let's post that. And then we have parse.com. Okay, so those are two services. And you can see I have Artwork Evolution, I have a photo table. The only one that I think is active right now is photo table. And so I have all kinds of, I guess there might be some secret data. I don't know what I'm showing you here. There's different settings. There's details about the app. I can write some of this stuff. There's status and review. I don't know what I'm looking at here. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, you have to create a Facebook app, and then if you come up onto your top bar, you should see the docs. And then within the docs, you'll find iOS developers, Android developers, web developers, game developers. So what you're going to look for here is iOS developers, and they've got sample code here for sharing an image, for logging in, for doing ads, and stuff like that. So that's a good place to get started. If you want to do something with Twitter, you could just go to, it might be developer.twitter.com. I'm not really sure. Twitter's a little bit harder to work with. Okay, it's dev.twitter.com. And here you would look to see if they had an API or something that you could integrate. And you do a similar process. So if we look at the documentation, and it looks like they just have a REST API or something like that. So this might be a little bit harder to work with than the Facebook SDK or the Parse SDK. I think Parse is probably your best option for getting started. 1 second. That didn't work. Okay, for whatever reason, my camera keeps like turning the autofocus on after 30 minutes. So those are how you would do the API stuff. And your best bet is going through some of those tutorials. Unfortunately, I don't have any videos right now on that. I'm still working through some of the intro materials on my stuff. Okay, so the next question. I lost my place. Every time I post something, I lose my place in this chat. All right, so Mike wants to know if I do consultant work. No, I don't do any consultant work right now. I'm in over my head with filming videos for my app courses that I sell on Skillshare and Udemy and on iPhoneDev.tv. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm also trying to blog more and post some videos on my YouTube channel for sort of like freebies that are helpful to people. There's a ton of issues I run into when I'm making apps, and I just haven't had time to write about all the things that I want to do right now. All right. Fabricio, I think I'm saying your name right. Where would you start if you'd build an app which is about displaying a lot of small, simple infographics, pie charts, bar charts? I would probably use either a collection view or a table view. Probably table view is the first thing that I would get started with. So a UI table view, and that's a good place to get started. You'd have to do custom cells, and then the other thing you're going to want to look at. So if you just search UI table view tutorial, you'll find stuff. That will get you started there. I do have some videos in my latest class on Udemy about working with the UI table view. And I have new videos that I'm posting this week. I guess it's Friday, so maybe it's this weekend. That I've been editing and I need to upload. So that'll be my second Udemy class. All right, so pie charts and other charts on iOS is what you're going to want to search. So if you use Google, just search pie charts on iOS. This should show you a couple options. I've used one of these before. I think iOS plot is what I used before to do some bar graphs. A while back, I was thinking of making a quick little app to do some charts. And if you wanted to list a bunch of these types of things, a table view would be an interesting way to have multiple pieces of content. Like I don't know exactly how this is going to be laid out in your app. You might have just a table view where you tap on stuff and it brings a new screen on, and then you can go back to your main content. So iOS plot is one option. And let me see if I can open this in the other window so I can post the links easier without losing my place. All right, so that's the link for this control. That's just something real quick. The other one we have is a GitHub project someone made for doing stuff. And it looks like they might have an app demo that you can install, or if that's the whole thing, I'm not exactly sure. It looks like it's code for doing a pie chart. So this is a potential other option. There's a lot of people who have started this, so that means that it should be a good option to look into. If I want to just do a chart on iOS or a graph, there's another one that I've used. I don't think it's any of these. I guess it was CorePlot. Was that first one CorePlot? I think I posted the wrong link. CorePlot is what I used. Almost positive. So this is just, yeah. So that's your second piece of the puzzle. You've got to figure out how you want to lay out the content. And I think a table view or UI collection views could be good. And then your other thing that you need to figure out is how to draw a graph or a pie chart. If you're just displaying an image, then you don't need to use CorePlot. But if you need to display like dynamic information and change it, CorePlot's going to allow you to draw different graphs and stuff like that. And they do have a wiki which should show you how to use it in your app. And it looks like this one actually moved to GitHub. So CorePlot on GitHub is probably what you want to be looking at. All right, so next question. All right, MD Islam wants to know how to integrate Game Center into his app to show a leaderboard. For doing Game Center, I would recommend just Googling Game Center tutorial. You should see some tutorials by Ray Wenderlich. And on his page, you can get started with a simple multiplayer game that should have instructions about the setup on iTunes Connect. So this would require a developer account. So you need to register as a developer, and then you'll be able to install these things to do that. So let me just post this link here. And there's a couple setup things, so it can be a little bit tricky to get started. Once you have all of the data set up, you can start authenticating the user. And after you do that, let's see, what does this one do? This one looks like it's doing a match. Okay, this one's not exactly what I want to show you. We just want leaderboards. So we got this other tutorial here. And this one will go for leaderboard. So I'd recommend Code at Tuts Plus. They're pretty good. So you could check those out. And I have done this. I'm working on a game, so if you go to, let me bring this up. I'll post this link. So this is a game I'm working on, and I do have leaderboards in it. It's called Protect the Bomb. Its unofficial name is Bomb Dodge. And basically you control this bomb and you don't want him to die. And you have different bombs on the screen that are hitting him. But we have leaderboards because we have points along the top. And you guys can go ahead and download it. It's free, so you can try it out and you can see how Game Center works in the app. Okay, Rennie is asking about Intel XDK. I don't know what this is. It looks like it's a framework for making an app. Is this a cross-platform framework, or is this just supposed to make it easier, or is this using like existing knowledge? I'm not exactly sure what XDK is. Though I'm guessing that this is HTML5, and if that's the case, it's kind of like PhoneGap or Titanium or any of those other platforms. And I don't like them. To be honest, I much prefer to write native code. That's my specialty. I'm very good, I guess, at learning iOS, and that's what I've spent the last 3 or 4 years just working on. And I prefer native development because I'm into game development, and when you're doing game development, frame rate is important. So generally you want 60 frames per second. So that makes me, I guess, more detail oriented, and I want a high frame rate so that everything looks responsive. And when you use these wrappers, you lose that. And a lot of the stuff I do is, if it's not games, it's photography or art related. And still I have graphics performance issues that are important. And so I go native. It gives you faster scrolling performance than you do with non-native. Though there are some improvements, I would say, with some of the HTML5 stuff. I still wouldn't use a wrapper because unless you have like knowledge of, I guess, writing HTML5 code, I think learning the native language is going to give you the best performance. All right, so Jordan has another question. Or is this just a follow-up? Oh, okay. So Jordan wants to know, in Tweetbot, they do some full screen stuff. And let's see if I can get my iPhone. Do I have Tweetbot? I might not have Tweetbot installed, actually. So I might have to come back to this. But they're using a physics framework, which is built into iOS. And I personally think they do it wrong. And I can show you what I think they should be doing and what they're not doing. So let's see if I have it. No, I don't have it installed. So let's just grab that real quick. So they're using the UI dynamics. Let me just grab this question. Okay, so UI dynamics is what they're using. So if I search UI dynamics tutorial, you'll find a lot of things related to that. So let's see if I can log into Tweetbot. I might have to type in my password, which I don't know off the top of my head. So if we're looking at UI dynamics, there's a tutorial from Ray's website. So Ray's got a lot of great tutorials on working with different things. He also has some books if you're interested. And here you can see how we can create a box that's going to fall down with gravity. We can set boundaries so that it sits on the bottom of the screen. We can have collisions where it can interact with different things. So this is a good way to learn about that. So let me just post that over here. It's not that the physics framework is wrong. It's the interaction that they give with the photos that It's like static. So I made an app called Phototable, which I'll share with you guys. And this was my third app, I guess. So Phototable, let's go to the actual app store. Huh. Okay, so Phototable is one of my apps. It's $9.99. I do have a free version, so you can try it out without paying any money. The reason I sell it for $9.99 is because I make more money off of it this way. I make anywhere from $200 to $600 a month from Phototable. If I didn't sell it at $9.99, I would make, I guess, a tenth of that. So for me to sell it at $9.99 is a lot better. So this is why I'm biased. Photo physics, I'll call this. So if you look at that link I just posted, you can find the free version down here, and you guys can download it. If you just click on that. Okay, so you've played with Phototable, good. So in Phototable, like the photos move around, and the problem I have with Tweetbot is they do these canned animations where it always goes in the same direction. And I haven't tried the latest version, so I could be wrong now. So let's just see how it's working. Oh, and look, if I don't have to re-authenticate, that would be awesome. All right, so let me try and find a photo on Tweetbot. Does anyone post photos? Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. It looks like they may have changed it. So let me pull up Reflector so that you can see what I'm doing on my screen. The initial version I tested did not display this way. So I'm using a tool here, and I can link to it in a second. Let me just format this so that it fits on the stream window. Want to resize? Can I resize? Yes. All right, so what we're looking at right now is my iPhone, and I'm logged into Tweetbot. So Steve Poland, someone I follow, has a photo here, and you can't see my finger right now, but I am controlling this photo, so I'm moving it around. It snaps back. When I pull it out, it's rotating a little bit, and it snaps back. And before, they always used to, when I threw it, it would always go to the top, but now when I throw, it seems to go in the direction that I'm throwing. And I'm not sure if the frame rate's good enough. I might have to throw this a little bit slower. But if I don't hit over, that one looked a little bit weird to me. Ideally, you would want to use the velocity of the finger, and that's what I do in Phototable. So here's Phototable. And here are pictures from my trip to Cancun, Mexico, with my girlfriend. And you can see I can drag a photo around much like that app. It doesn't snap to the middle. This is basically a collage of photos, and you can zoom in and move stuff around. So this is Phototable. And if I throw an image off the screen, it'll go off the screen. But I also make it so they sort of decelerate so that you can just move some photos around the screen. And I feel like this feels more natural. Now, in order to test the difference, you really need to have both apps open to really see how it works and to feel how smooth it is. So I'm not using UI Dynamics here. This is all animation code, and it's been hand tweaked. So that's the difference there. I guess we'll move on to the next question. If you have any more comments, just post something about it, and you can sort of, I guess, see how this one feels a little bit different. So it's all to personal taste, and my tastes are different than other people who are making iPhone apps. But I'm very particular. All right, hold on a second. Weba, I am recording this, so this will be posted on YouTube, assuming YouTube doesn't have any issues. So that's the reason I'm going for the live stream, because YouTube can record the 720p videos, which is a good thing. because it's less work for me for managing all the videos. All right, moving on. If you guys have questions, just keep posting them. And if you guys like what we're doing here and you want to see this again, please let me know. I've been working on doing some new stuff to support the classes, and I've got some things that I haven't announced yet, but I'll be announcing soon with new classes related to my Kickstarter. And so if that's something you're interested in seeing more stuff of, just let me know. Either write me an email or leave a comment here, because it's good to know what you guys want to see. I don't want to just do this if no one else is watching. But it looks like we got a pretty good turnout right now. All right, so Steven's got a question. So he's been trying to submit an app for the past month, and it's been denied 3 times due to reason 10.6, which means that it does not have enough interactive features in it. Okay, I've had other people tell me about this issue. He wants to know if there's any advice on getting it to get submitted. So yes, I do have advice. You want to make it so iPhone apps and Apple's curation means that your app needs to be something useful to people. It needs to do something. It needs to remember something. It needs to feel like it's helping them accomplish something. Now, this is a little bit different than just being a website. Anyone can make a website and you can view it on the iPhone. Websites don't need to remember anything. There's no restrictions on how they work in terms of the iPhone. So if there's something, you could publish it as a web app, and that's one way around it. The other thing you need to start thinking about is how you can make it so that it actually provides value. And so if you were to ask someone, okay, would you use this app? They might be able to give you some insight into what features you might add or what would make the app a little bit better. So I don't know what it is. You'd have to post a little bit more information about it or link to something. But one of my other students was trying to submit something, and it was basically it was kind of like infographics, and they were semi-interactive, but it didn't do anything beyond that. And so it was educating someone on a particular type of food, but it didn't have any way to track the preferences. So what I recommended to him was to track the preferences of the user. So if you're going to recommend me different foods, let me favorite certain foods. Let me write some descriptions about how the food tasted, what the flavor profile was. Let me store information in the app so that I can come back to it and think, okay, I just had this dinner party and I had maybe a particular beer with it. I want to know how was the pairing, or I want to know if the beer was too hoppy. Just give the user some way of storing information. That's my generic, I guess, suggestion right now. So that's for getting rejected. And my apps were also rejected. So it's something that you have to work through. PhotoTable originally was rejected because it was using Game Center. So PhotoTable was using Game Center to share images. I could take an image and I could throw it off the screen, and then someone else could have the app open and they could get the image in another state, in another country, whatever. And because this isn't really a game, Apple rejected me multiple times, and I kept appealing, and they're like, no. So then they're like, you have to take it out. So I took it out, then they approved it within like an hour. So sometimes you have to play within Apple's rules, and depending on what your app is, that will change what exactly I recommend. All right. I guess we have a suggestion that you could add Facebook or Twitter share buttons. That may or may not work. It depends on if the users or if Apple thinks that you're providing value. If it's just mimicking a website, you're going to have a tough time without adding a feature to save something or to favorite something. Yeah, YouTube is is delayed by about 30 seconds. So everything you guys post on the YouTube channel, and only one person posted a comment there, that's like delayed, and everything you're watching is delayed. So I like HipChat because it's like real-time chat, and it's a lot easier to use than the YouTube comments. All right, Renee linked something for prototype. And so these are a list of things. I've used Balsamiq before. I've used Fluid UI. I've used the app cooker. And I'll just go into one of them. So Balsamiq is a way for you to create basically the flow of an app. So if I highlight the mouse, go to products, there should be like an iPhone one. Guess you might have to pay to use this. I'm not sure. It's a little more in depth than I want to get. Let's see if Fluid UI is easier to get started with. Somehow I lost that window. Fluid UI is number 4. This one might be a more iOS focused. I'm not certain. Start prototyping. They all want me to sign an account. I don't want to make an account. But the gist is I can design how the iPhone's going to look. So I can have my iPhone screen and I can drag and drop content onto it. And then I can show what the different screens are going to look like. So that's like a crazy data collection app. But if I wanted to like mock out how this app is going to work, what the rows are going to look like, what kind of buttons are in here and stuff like that, I could use Fluid UI or Balsamiq to design that UI. All right, so Khalid has a question about playing music in the background. So again, Google is our friend here, or Bing, or whatever you want to use to search. So if you want to play music in background, I would search for that, and then I would type in iOS. And there's a background service for doing audio playing, which you might be able to incorporate. I'm assuming you can because I'm pretty sure Pandora does it. So doing this, I found this Stack Overflow comment, and let me just share that link. So that's playing background, and then if I click on this link, looks like there's 2 issues. So you've got the multitasking API, which is listed in that. And here you have the background state, and then you can do background execution. So there's a lot of stuff in here. I'd recommend reading it over. I've read this over at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 times, and that link does not work. The other thing to do is look for any new comments. And so I would look around a little bit more. Definitely read the API on how to get started with that. All right. Jordan's question is, how often do I host Q&As? I've hosted a few. I haven't done them regularly because my last few had really low turnouts, and I didn't get a whole lot of questions. So this one's turning out a lot better. And I'd be willing to do more if you guys would be interested in participating more and just giving me feedback. Okay, so Steve's saying that his app is about nerve. I don't know what a nerve block is. Okay, so Steve added a quiz questions, but he was still denied. It could be that they didn't find the quiz feature. Did you make the feature prominent? Actually my very first iPhone app, it was rejected because they said there were no buttons. And I was like, what do you mean there's no buttons? But what I gave them, my first app was Artwork Evolution, and that is this app right here. And Artwork Evolution was rejected because they didn't know how to use it. So because if you start a new app, you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do here? Does anyone know what you're supposed to do in this interface? It's not entirely clear. I do have a help pop-up that will pop up if I hit play tutorial. And this pops up for new users now. So this is a new feature I added that just goes over how to use the app. Now, again, this is sort of a niche app. It's my graduate research project, and it's a tool that uses mathematics to create art. So I've created art for art shows and stuff like that, but they didn't know how to use it because I didn't supply instructions. So having instructions in your app might help them, or at least just telling them how to use it. Maybe you could include some screenshots in your correspondence with them about getting it approved. You really got to be a squeaky wheel in this. If you don't contact Apple and you don't push forward, they might just throw you out for like a simple issue. They might not know how to use it. The app reviewers don't always spend a whole lot of time with your app. So if they don't know how to use it, they could reject it. And so I would recommend making sure that you explain how it works. All right, it looks like I have to check the camera again. I still need to figure out how to work with this. It's my second day. I'm trying to live stream off of a DSLR Canon camera. So, it's a learning experience. All right, so Jordan has another question. What's the best way to save versions of an app? Oh boy. So you've been copying and pasting different versions and saving them in different folders, which is fine. That's fine to get started. It's not the best way to get started. I would highly recommend, if you're going to use Xcode, that you learn how to use GitHub or Git by itself. So that's what I do. Let's see if I can show you. This one is not tracked. Okay, this one's also not tracked. Let me pull up Photo Table or Artwork Evolution or Bomb Dodge. Here's Bomb Dodge. So one of the things that you have in Xcode, Bomb Dodge has a ton of files. So this is the Protect the Bomb game that I linked to earlier. And in this game, let's see, what is good to look at? I have all these different files. So I have a store thing. That's not what I want to show you. I have no idea where the files are. There's so many of them. Let's just go with the app delegate. This is like a starting point. So let's clear up the screen. So the buttons on the top can help us get more space. And here we see a lot of code. So our application did finish launching. This is the first entry point into the app. So I have two versions of the app. One is a development version, one is not. And it just starts up here. But what happens is when I'm ready to make a change and I do some change. So let's say I added a print statement here. I have a hello statement, and you'll see that an M appears. So this is using version control. And version control is something I would highly recommend you using, especially when you're starting a new app. So when you create a new project, so right now I'm in the File, New Project. You can't see the menu bar right now. That's going to make this window appear. And in here, you select iOS application, single view application, hit next. And then we can call it whatever we want. So version control. And in here, I will save it into my projects folder. Now, this is just under my desktop, so I just have a folder for all my Xcode projects. Now, what you want to do is create a Git repository on your Mac, or you can add it to a new server. If I do this, I might have to enter some stuff. I haven't tried this process. I probably should make a video on using Git, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But even if you just did it on your Mac, that would be a good place to start. And once I do this, then it will add version control. So the way this works is I can make a change in my app. And let me stop the other app. Did I start that one? I probably don't want to commit that change. So I'm going to undo what I did. We're going to work in a new app. So in version control, I can print out a message. So let's say I want to print out what version this is. So this is version 1. And what I can do is I can run this. And what I'm doing is when it starts up and the application did finish launching with options, this is going to print out a message along the bottom panel, which is going to bring up this little bottom pane when it's ready. Now, I already have some other app running, so I need to figure out. It looks like my coffee videos app is running. Let me resize this, because you can't see all the buttons. Okay, so this button right here will make our output and our variables view appear. And then we have 2 more tab controls. This will make output take the full area. This will turn on the variables. This will turn off the output. So we're only going to look at output right now. And when I hit the run button, the simulator starts up. For whatever reason, it keeps changing my simulator. I want the small simulator, and now I have the big one. So I am just going to scale the simulator to 50% so that it fits up here in this window. It's not going to have the border, but that's okay. All we care about is the message that prints out. So it says version 1 here, and that's all we care about. So what I'm going to do is I can commit the changes. So in your project, you can go to source control and commit. And when you do a commit, you should be able to describe what you changed. Now, there's some extra data here. This is user data. You can commit this if you want. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't check these boxes. I would just check this thing. So this will show us what changed, and it will highlight the code lines that changed and show you where it was inserted. So this is the old version, and then this is the new version. So here, added version 1 is something that I can add here, and I just commit the file. Now what this does is it's going to track all my changes. It's kind of like turning on change tracking in Microsoft Word or Pages. And that M should go away if I commit. Okay, so now the M is gone. I think my computer's just running slow because I'm live streaming. So now if I were to change this to version 2, I would save it. You would see an M appear here. I might have to click on something else. Now the M is here. So M means modified. C means conflict. So that's when you have an issue, especially if you work with multiple people. And A is added. And then question mark, it's not in the thing yet, and you might have to add it. So if I added a new file, Objective-C class, view controller, we'll call this 2. Just VC2 real quick. Gonna create it. We have 2 new files. They should show up with a letter here. So it's saying added. You'll notice that the project was modified. And when I do a commit, so if I go to source control, commit, this is going to allow me to add these files. So it's going to show me what changed. And here I can see that 2.0 is different from 1.0. And then if I look at the view controller, we can see that this is a new file that I added. So version 2, update, and added new code file. And so here I can hit commit, and it's tracking all these changes. Now, the whole reason we're doing this is because this allows us to keep track of what we're working on. We don't have to make copies of the folder directory. Git will be what we're using here under the hood, and we can change to a different version, or we can look at our old history. So this tab up here will show us our history, and if I hide these panels, we can go to, I guess I want to go to the view controller or app delegate. The app delegate, here we can see one of the versions. So this is our local revision. And then on the right, we have whatever we last committed. Now I have two different versions here that I can switch to. So I have version 1, which I just switched to, and this will show me what changes between the versions. And then I can switch to this version, which is my initial version when I first created the project. And you can see there is no print statement here, but there's a print statement over here. All right, so that's a little bit with working with version control. The other resource I'm going to point you to is to go to github.com. Oops, that didn't copy. Let's try that again. And here they have a getting started guide. Let's see, where did they put it? Maybe this one? Or this one? There's a boot camp? Yes. So that's this whole thing. If I click on this, this will show me how to set it up. Now, this is a little bit confusing. So you could walk through this stuff and set it up. There is a tutorial somewhere. And if you use the GitHub for Mac, this is a great download. I use this on my Mac all the time. This lets me track all the changes, and it's way better than using like a terminal, and it's better than using just Xcode's built-in features. So when I make changes to a project, I can see a list of repositories. So repositories are where I have code, and so I made this tutorial on how to use a special gesture, and I can open that up. My computer responds. And here I can see all of the changes maybe that I made, or the history. So you can see I added a bunch of different changes, and it shows me like I added an image here. I did initial edition, and stuff like that. So that, I guess we'll move on. That's a lot. So we got GitHub. Let me just write this down. Okay. So Colton has another question. Is it possible that I can do some Sprite Kit tutorials sometime in the future? Yes, it's on my to-do list. I haven't gotten to it. If you want to get started now, you can always just do Sprite Kit tutorials in Google. And I believe Ray's website has a ton of tutorials. So we've got the Sprite Kit tutorial. Shows you some, I guess, differences to the other stuff. Just getting started, printing out text in the graphics window, and then displaying a game character, moving game characters around, and stuff like that. So I do want to do some video tutorials on this. Ray's been doing a lot of tutorials on Sprite Kit, so he's a good resource to go to right now, because I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So they've got some good stuff over there if you're looking for more tutorials. Okay, so I got another question from Alfonsi, and he wants to know what my background was prior to working with Objective-C. So I was a student at Rochester Institute of Technology, and I was programming in C++, Java, Python. And so that was kind of my programming background. I started coding in high school. I wanted to start before that, but It was really hard without the internet or without all the internet resources there are now to get started with programming with BASIC when I was a kid. So that never worked out. But now I've been programming, and I've worked for Apple, Microsoft, and the government. And I guess when I was at Apple, I didn't know how to do any Mac programming. I didn't know how to do any iPhone programming. I was there when the iPhone 3G came out. That was something I wanted to get into, but I didn't, because I was working on a different project there. So I would say I struggled through my first app, and my first app was it was a robot remote control. So there's this framework called Player Stage that allows you to control robots, and I would talk to that from the iPhone app. And I really had no idea what I was doing. I was just hacking around, just trying to get things working, following some tutorials, reading Stack Overflow. Like you said, Stack Overflow is a resource that's really, really helpful. So anytime you have any questions, Stack Overflow is pretty much the place I go. I run into a lot of issues. Sometimes when I solve the issues, it's a combination of using Stack Overflow, using other people's blogs, and just looking for a solution. So it really varies how I find a solution, but I couldn't write all the apps that I do now without Stack Overflow and without a lot of the blogs that I read up on the issues, because sometimes you run into a bug and the API doesn't work like you expect, or it's just not documented. They might just have the reference guide, which just lists all of the functions. So if I was looking at like NSString reference, if I was just looking at this, it can be a little bit hard to get started with it just looking at the developer documentation. It doesn't always include all the information for how to do everything. Usually at the very top, they're very helpful. So NSString is a pretty good one. But sometimes when you're working with like the new APIs Apple launches with the new iPhones or the new SDKs, it can be challenging. So I do a lot of research, a lot of experimental programming. I'll just create a new Xcode project when I'm learning something new or messing around with something. So much like I created the app here, I lost it, for version control. Like if I want to learn version control, I'm going to create a test iPhone app, and I'm going to fiddle around with it, see how it works, make changes, and really try to understand it. All right, let's see. Gurvinder asked a question about slide out menus used in the Gmail app. I actually haven't used the Gmail app. I just use the Mail app right now. So let me see if I can download that. I downloaded it once before, and it was just a web app, and it was slow, so I deleted it. But I did hear that they had made some changes. I don't know if they made it better. All right, Colton wants to know how to do animation. So let's do a quick little tutorial. I'm going to add a UI view to the screen, and I guess I'm going to do it in code. So in the view controller, and I want to move this stuff around. So in viewController.m here, I'm going to create a new view, and I'm going to add it to the screen, and then we're going to work with it. So if I just type UI view, and I'll call it a blue view, is equal to UI view alloc init. So this is going to create it for me. I have to give it a frame, so I'm going to do init with frame. And here I'll do a CG rec. Now this is a function call to make a rectangle. So it's going to be at, let's say 100, 100, and it's going to be 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall, or points tall. And then we'll say self.view add subview, and then the last thing I need to do is color it blue. So we'll say blue view dot background color is equal to, and then the bracket UI color blue color. So hopefully, if I wrote that all correct, that will give us a blue view. So now we see this blue view up top, and I'm going to make it animate. So anytime you're looking to do something new, again, I do recommend looking on Google how to animate. Let's look at core animation, and I am going to make a class on working with animation. Core animation tutorial iOS. Here it looks like we got a ray tutorial. That didn't take me to it. Maybe we'll look at the core animation programming guide. This is a great document to read. I've definitely read this before. This is the Mac version. Some of that stuff should apply. We don't want that. Here's the iOS version. So let me post that. So this might be a little bit more low level, but it's explaining some of the concepts for animation, for moving stuff around. There is a lot of complex math. But for a lot of the view stuff, we can do some simpler stuff. So if I just search for UI view animation, this stuff is actually a lot easier. And so I'll search for this, and the view programming guide has an animation section. This shows you what can be animated. So this one will be good. And this is actually how I do all the animations in PhotoTable. Now, anytime I don't use something for a while, I sort of forget the syntax for doing it. So here we're going to use the block syntax, and it's just UI view, which is the class, and then animate with duration, and then we can do some attributes. And so it tells us what things we can animate and move around. Now, there are some gotchas when you're working with user input, but like this is the easiest way to get started. So we can animate the alpha level, which is the transparency, and we can animate the position. So let's play around with that right now. Let me get rid of this, find the right project. So let's do a UI view, animate, and then I have a few different options here. I'm just going to do the second one, animate with animations, and it's going to be over, let's say 1 second. So we'll do 1.0. And then here we need to use a block. So the syntax looks a little bit weird, but you do this upwards caret, which is the shift 6, and then open bracket, close curly bracket. So these are the curly braces. So this is now a block of code. And we call them blocks. And then we just have our closing brace here, and then our semicolon. So in here we can do something. So I can say blueview.center is equal to some new value. And so here we could say a CG point make. So this is how we can create a CG point. And then here, let's move it down 200. So I'll go 100, which will be the X position. And then we want to move it down 200, which should be 200 here. And I believe the top of the screen is the left corner. So you want to think in terms of that. And the programming guide will go into detail about that. So if we do this and run it, I didn't see it. So let's try that again. I'm going to add a button. This is acting really slow with the live stream. So we'll just add a button to animate. I'll call it animate. And I'll connect it to code. So just say animate button pressed. And then in here, we'll do that animation block. So now we have the issue where this is just a local variable. So I need to create a instance variable. So we'll just do UIView underscore blue view. I always like to have an underscore to differentiate between an instance variable and a local variable. A local variable ends here, whereas an instance variable I can use in any method. So I'm just going to copy and paste this down here. So we don't need to declare it anymore. We can just use blue view, and I'll just paste it in here and right here. So if we switch back to the single view and back to the code file, to juggle a little bit with the different code files, we rerun this. We should be able to move the block down when my simulator appears. If it likes me. I'm going to clean it and rerun because my computer's really slow right now. Awesome. Okay, so it moved. Didn't move where I thought it would move. But it did move on start. Oh, because it's still running the wrong version. I'm going to have to close Xcode, so hold on a second. Xcode's misbehaving, and so is the simulator. So I'm going to close them both. Sometimes this happens for me, and sometimes restarting Xcode can help. Okay, so let's just see if this will work. I'll try and run it again. If you have any other last questions, just ask them now. I want to try and wrap up around 3:30. If I hit animate, it moves. And it didn't move where I expected, but it did move. So that's one way to do the animations. The other thing we can do is we can make it transparent. So I can set the alpha equal to 0.5, so it's going to get lighter. Oh, it's because right now I did the frame. If I want its center, I have to set it in the beginning. So let's set the center equal to CG point. Its center is actually not where I thought it was, because the frame is different from setting the center. So let's set this again. It's going to be in a slightly different location. I hit animate, and it slides down and becomes transparent. Now I cannot click through this, so I am clicking right here. I can only click here because it's obscuring the view. All right, Evan has a question about RevMob, iAds. I've used both. They're both ad platforms. And right now, I find that I barely make any money with iAds. I think I'm making like $2 a month. Granted, the app is really old and no one really used it. And then I have PhotoTable Lite, which has RevMob, and that I think makes anywhere from $20 to $60 a month. They are worthwhile. I've probably made over $1,000 in ads with PhotoTable free version. So it is an option. All right, Jordan has another question, and he mentioned something about the Mac freebie. which looks like it has another version of a Control X Mirage. I haven't tried that yet. I just use Reflector, which is Reflector app. I can post that. Oops. So many tabs. I shouldn't have clicked on that one. All right. That looks interesting. Okay. I'm trying to get this Gmail app installed too, so I'm trying to get back to your question. And then in terms of icon creation, I now use this tool on the Mac App Store to do all my icons. And let's see if I can get the App Store up here. If you just search for Icon Kit, it works pretty well. I think it was like $5 or $10. Basically, it can export all of this different sizes that I need, and you can choose between iOS 7 and iOS 6. They have some toolbar thing. I never use it. I find that gets in the way more. So I just use the actual app. And so if I bring that up, again, that's Icon Kit. So let me copy the link. So with Icon Kit, you can just give it the full size image, just throw it in and it will spit it out. So if I open it up, this is Icon Kit. Now the little pop-up is annoying. You can't see it though, because I'm not showing that part of my screen. So here I can add an image. I guess I import. Things are going pretty slow right now. And then I would pick an image. So if I go to my Dropbox, I have a bunch of apps, and then I have folders with image assets and icons. So I could choose, let's go with the Artwork Evolution icon, this one. And if I just go with this, it'll throw it in here. Everything's a little bit slow, but there it is. I hit the next button and it will show me the previews of all the different ones. And then if I hit export, which is this button, I can save the entire list of icons out somewhere like on my desktop. And I don't want iOS 6 since I'm just doing iOS 7 now. I hit export here and hopefully on my desktop. Here we have all the different resized versions of the icon. And I would highly recommend not, when you do this, make sure you do not have transparency or any of those effects. So when I export, I think I had an option to round the corners. Only round the corners for marketing purposes. Do not include rounded corners in your app or you'll have artifacts in the presentation on the App Store. And I have that issue with one of my apps. And I had to fix it. I think it's still broken. I'm not sure if I fixed all the problems. Might have to upload another version of it. You can submit an app a lot of times. Weba. As long as it's, I mean, you can always do updates, and if they're rejecting you, you can just work with them and try and figure out why they're rejecting you. Steven, maybe one of the things you can do, are you still here? For that is you can You can make the app so that it, and I have the camera bars. So if you, one of the things that you could do is you could maybe include some kind of timers or something in your application that help walk through the process of, you talked about doing stuff for surgery. So if Apple's rejecting you for not doing enough stuff, maybe you could have a timer or something that walks them through the whole process and make the entire process interactive. I guess there's some Sprite Kit tutorials on Udemy. So Udemy is where I sell some of my courses. So if you're not taking my course there, you can find, I have an introduction app, and then I have the other one. But if we search for Sprite Kit, it looks like there are some tutorials. I have no idea how good these are, but there's some options to jump into. Okay. Deva, do you still have a question about in-app purchases? Just post it. Yeah, I can probably just post the chat log into the description or link to it somehow. Jordan, in terms of how apps pay, ads pay. Oh, okay. Every ad network is going to be different. So, oh, and you couldn't see my screen when I was on that. Whoops. So we were looking at Udemy for Sprite courses. So let me just post a link. Yes, I do have coupons for my courses so that they're $49 on Udemy. The other option is I do have a late backer option for my Kickstarter. So if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get a coupon for that to get access to all of my courses for one price rather than paying for each course. I'm making 13 different courses for my Kickstarter project. So you guys can check that out here. So Jordan, it's really dependent on the ad network. You'll never know until you actually turn it on and see how the ads are performing. Deva, in terms of in-app purchase, I would recommend that you just Google in-app purchase iOS, and there's some tutorials for going through that. You can also read the programming guide. So we could look at the in-app purchases. And that's one thing. I'd like to make a course or videos on how to do that. I know there's some courses on Udemy that do it. I don't know how good they are. That's something that you could check out. Where was I? So, okay, we have the in-app purchase guide, which is really important to read. Since in-app purchases are how you're going to get paid, it's really important to spend some time working on that if you want to get paid for those virtual purchases. And then Ray's tutorial on in-app purchases has been really helpful for me. He also has an iOS book that you can get that will go over more details. And so that's been really helpful for me. I'm working on in-app purchases for one of my games, and I don't have it done yet, so I'm not ready to create a course on it, but I have some stuff in the works on working with it. But I would recommend looking at other people's stuff for now because I'm just not ready to teach it. And I'm not going to do a demo now since we're pretty much out of time for today. So let's see if there's any other questions. Yeah, Jordan, I really like that resizing app. All right, so if anyone wants to purchase, and I'll just, let me see if I can find it. If you want to get my courses, because I do more in-depth courses that I don't publish to YouTube entirely, you can go to my website. It's iPhone Dev TV, and here I've got a blog on things. If you subscribe, you can watch 20 videos. If you've never done any Objective-C programming, I'll email you a list of videos that you can watch for my first iPhone course. It's meant for beginners. I also have a bunch of blog topics here where you can learn different things. I'm into coffee brewing, so you'll see some coffee stuff here. And I have a couple options here. So you could buy a course that I sell for $49, and you can buy it on Skillshare, Udemy, or directly from my website. And then I also offer this late backer thing. So I ran a Kickstarter a while back. So if you look on Kickstarter, and let's see if we can get this to pop up. I ran a Kickstarter. I raised $47,000 to fund the development of these classes. And this has basically been, I don't work for anyone. So I work out of my own office. I teach programming. I make my own apps, and that's how I fund everything. So this Kickstarter was really helpful in letting me dedicate a lot more time to teaching online courses. And so this Kickstarter project, I'm building 13 different courses. So there's 5 initially. 2 of them are out right now, and you can get them on Udemy. The first one is the link I'm posting now. And then the second one is here. So those are 2 classes. Udemy I like because they have an iPhone and iPad app, so you can watch the stuff anywhere. You can download the videos and sort of watch it on the go. So I would recommend that if you're interested in learning. I also have classes on Skillshare. Those Skillshares changed their terms, so now I can't publish any new classes that I have content already developed for. So that's really frustrating for me because I've been developing a new course over the past 2-3 months, and Skillshare won't let me post it because they want content ownership, and so I have to post a completely new course. But I'm looking at another platform, and I don't have any details on it yet, that will let me do subscription rather than doing one-off purchases for my course content. And so you can back all 13 courses. It's $249 here, but if you sign up for my mailing list, I do have a coupon, or you can use, I think the coupon is late backer 50. So if you just type in late backer 50, let's see if that's the coupon for this. So if I click on the purchase link here, then you can see the price here, and you can add a promo code. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going off the screen a little bit. So if you scroll down, there's a promo code area, and you just type in late backer 50 and hit redeem, and it will make it 50% off. So it's $124.50. That's the lowest price I'm offering right now for the whole bundle. This gives you all the courses. So anytime I publish a new course within this bundle, which I've got a few lined up, you'll get all of them. And so the bundle includes the intro to 2 courses that are published right now, and I'm still adding content to them. So they're not totally fleshed out, but a lot of the bulk is there. There's over, I want to say 20 hours of content. I've got another 2 or 3 hours that I'm adding this week, I guess this weekend or early next week. I'm going to work with UI collection views, gestures. So there's going to be advanced topic courses that are going to be very focused. How to skin your user interface. So earlier I showed the map border app. So if we go to the home screen on the iPhone here, Map Border is an app that I skinned. So in the class, I show, and I'm still working on a new feature for it, where you can slide out these panels. In the course, I show sort of a non-skinned version, and now you can see how I've skinned it using custom graphics and just sort of making it look a little bit more interesting with custom graphics to move things around. So that's going to be the topic of that course. There's going to be an introduction to iPad development, and then I have a bunch of these late backer stretch goals that we all reached. So there's going to be a Bluetooth course, iPad in depth. Let's see, not all of those were in the list. There's going to be no Facebook because no one wanted it. We had a vote for 8 of these. There's going to be some on MapKit, accelerometer, core image, core graphics, core animation, and web services. So those are the courses, and you can read more about it on my website. And that's just another option if you guys want to keep learning and support me so that I can keep on making more courses. So that's enough of me just marketing some of the stuff I'm working on. Thank you for joining this chat. And it looks like we have... So let me just link back to that. Just so if you're watching... And then the coupon again is just late backer 50 for 50% off. Okay, last question before I wrap up is, Gurvinder, you're asking about delegate and protocols. I just posted a video on YouTube actually on this, a whole YouTube series on creating a walkthrough. So let's go to my dashboard, and under my video manager, playlists, let me get you the exact playlist link. So I did a custom login view controller, and there's 5 videos in this. It's about 50 minutes. So if you want to do delegates and protocols, that is the link that I'm posting. So that will go over how to show a new login view screen, how to respond to a button and send stuff back. All right. So thank you everyone for joining. Did you guys like using HipChat? Was this a good way to ask questions? And I can hopefully copy and paste the entire transcript into the video that we're posting. So thank you, Deva, Weba, Jordan, and Miguel for sticking around, asking questions, and everyone else who's been here. It's been interesting just working through these different things and trying to point you to the resources. For me, that's the best place to start. Like, I need to work through resources on my own to really understand how things work. Then I can write the code. Then I can get things working. All right. Well, if you guys have any other questions, you guys can reach me. Just, you can email, Twitter, or whatever. And so my contact info is just Paul Solt, @PaulSolt. I don't know if I can write it in here. @PaulSolt on Twitter. Just go to twitter.com. Or you can use paulsolt@iphonedev.tv. So that's my contact info online. I'm going to close down this chat channel in a few minutes after I get the transcript. And oh, yes, the sliding menus. That's one more question. Okay, I guess I have one more thing to do. Email questions to Paul Solt at iPhoneDev.tv. And I guess one other question, I guess, for you guys is there a good time for live streams? Everything's going to be recorded, so if you can't make it all the time, if I do another Q&A, it'll be recorded so you can sort of watch it, or you can send in questions earlier, and then I can address them. So that's the benefit of just emailing me a question, is I can add it to the list of things to ask or go over. Okay, so I finally did get the Gmail app installed, and let's just pull it up with Reflector real quick. I have no idea what's in my inbox, so I don't know what you guys are going to see. So show my screen one more time. And then we will call it a night. Okay, so hopefully this is all synced up. Gonna go to my inbox. And how do I get the sliding menus? Is it just dragging? It's kind of weird. Are you talking about the sidebar? That's the only thing that I see that slides. I see this sliding bar. So we're looking at my iPhone right now on top of all the other windows. So it might look a little weird. But that screen you're seeing is my iPhone. And if I tap on it, does it go? Nope, doesn't go full screen. So this sliding bar, if that's what you're talking about, you're going to want to do like hamburger, I think. Hamburger iOS menu. And this gives you that thing. So that's what I would search for. And then I would look at some of the solutions here. So here's someone else posting something about that. And it looks like there's some open source code that you might be able to leverage on Cocoa controls. I've seen this before. This is one option. I've seen better ones. This actually doesn't look that great. Let's just search sidebar on Cocoa. Cocoa Controls is a good site. If I just go to the main page, this is a lot of open source code where you can see pictures, sometimes videos. And on here, you can sometimes scroll and see something you like. But if I don't find something on the first page, then I would search for it. So at the very top, if you can see my mouse, we're going to look for a sidebar. So sometimes I don't know what to call these things. So it looks like here we've got an option. I know some of my students have used one, but I can't remember the name. So it looks like there's a few different variations. And I would probably go with maybe this one. So the SH sidebar, I'd really have to see if any of these are active, but this could give you a starting point. So that's what I would recommend. If you want to write it from scratch and do it all yourself, you're going to have to look into UI View Controller containment, and Apple has some videos on this. But this, and for that, I would recommend looking at some of the WWDC videos. So WWDC, I think 2012. Let's see if there's a containment. There's a match somewhere. View controller. So the evolution of view controllers might be what we want. Oops. Sorry, my text expander did not work. That or the latest ones are WWDC 2013. I just want the videos. Oh, they took that down? All right, so there's a new link. And on here, custom transitions with the view controller. So that might be it. Some of the text is hidden, so the search doesn't work very well on this page. It's really annoying. Yeah, so I would look somewhere in here. Here's that first one, custom transitions. This might be helpful, so just look in there. All right, so that is it. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for posting some comments and questions and responding to the things that I talked about and helping have some interesting things to talk about. And just shoot me an email at paulsolt@iphonedev.tv or on Twitter at paulsolt. And I can talk to you there. And if you're in one of my classes already, thank you for being in one of them and helping support me. And I do have more courses which you can sign up for as they're published. I need to get to recording some more videos today. All right, so I'll catch you guys later.